It's great to have you here with me, Ann Morris, because we've had the pleasure of working together. I've joined you on the front lines, been stomping around Capitol Hill with you. You are the president of Komen for both the states of Connecticut and Massachusetts. What does that mean? What do you do?
We focus in two separate areas. One is the development side, which is raising the funds, which is pushing the rock up the hill every day and trying to raise more and more money to invest in education, screening, treatment, and research. And the other is the investment side of it, is where are we investing this money to have the greatest impact on the fight against breast cancer?
Yes, I've been privy to a few of those conversations, and it's always interesting. And you say sometimes you like to keep your hands right on it and be involved to make sure that the most people get early screening and mammograms, because there are so many people these days. I just heard you talking about one for women under 40. Women under 40, they're not even in the game of getting mammograms. There's no insurance coverage for getting a mammogram if you're under 40.
That's correct. It's very difficult to get the order from a doctor. So even if you're willing to self-pay, meaning that your insurance company has denied payment for a mammogram because you are under 40, and that's below the guidelines. If you're willing to self-pay, you still need to get a physician to write the order so that you can go to a radiology center and get the mammogram. So very difficult. And then if you need diagnostic work after that, it's such an uphill battle, and, you took on the fight. You challenged your doctors, you challenged, different protocols for treatment. A lot of people don't do that. They just kind of sit back and they're not quite as aggressive about their disease as you are. So unfortunately, they lose the battle.
And there are a lot of women out there who think, oh, it's going to happen to someone else. I don't have a lot of breast cancer in my family. I don't have to worry about this.
We thought we dispelled that myth years ago, but I still hear it all the time. Women will call me at the office and they'll say, how can this be? I've just been diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm healthy, I exercise, I eat right, and no one in my family has ever had breast cancer. And that's an absolute myth. Only 10 to 15% of breast cancers are connected to a family history of the disease. We don't know what causes breast cancer. What we do know more and more about is what breast cancers need to grow and thrive in our bodies. For instance, estrogen receptive breast cancer. We know that those particular tumors need estrogen to grow and thrive.
And now we've also learned that if you have a higher percent of body fat, if you're overweight, all that extra estrogen coming in is stored in the extra body fat.
That's
and it puts you more at risk. Yeah. I don't know if most women realize that. It's not just a matter of fitting into a smaller size gene. This is putting us at higher risk for breast cancer.
There is scientific research that shows that maintaining a healthy weight reduces your risk of breast cancer. Drinking alcohol increases your risk of breast cancer. How many women know that? It increases the level of estrogen in your body by consuming alcohol. So back to your question. I don't mean to get off track here, but...
No, we like this kind of off track, though, because we learn.
Yeah, well, that's what we're in the business of doing. You asked me what I do in my role here. It's all about educating women and getting them to take charge of their breast health.
We know statistically that Connecticut has the highest incidence of breast cancer, and I think Massachusetts is the second. Those are both your states that you that you oversee.
Yes.
But why?
Yeah, everyone asks that question, Joan, why? And we don't know why. We honestly don't know yet. We're learning more and more about breast cancer, the different kinds, what it needs to grow and reproduce in your body. Estrogen, for instance, is a big player in some women, not yours, but some women's are estrogen receptive. And women need to know about those kinds of things, but we don't know why. There is some conjecture. And it's not scientific fact, so I really need to underscore that this is theory. It is not fact. And so wearing my Komen hat, sitting here with you, I want to make sure that your audience understands that. But some people think that perhaps early industrialization of this area, farming, pesticides that were used many years ago may still be in our water supply.
Wow.
There's also some conjecture that there's a lot of wealth in Connecticut and Massachusetts. You surround yourself with a lot of things that perhaps low-income individuals don't. And we do know about some certain carcinogens that are in certain products, and below a certain level, they're allowed to be produced and sold to us. So there is no answer to that question. I really hope that someday soon we'll have it. But I think when we do have it, it won't be one answer, because breast cancer is many different diseases. It is not one disease. Yeah. The common thread, of course, is that they're all breast cells that have mutated improperly. Our body has not destroyed them as it should, and they've continued to reproduce and eventually become a tumor. So, yeah.
And of course, that's why the sooner you find them, before they have had a chance to proliferate and produce more and grow outside of that tumor and metastasize. That's a word that metastasize means that it's left its actual tumor and has gone out into other organs or the bloodstream or the lymph system, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the best kind, if you're going to get diagnosed, is carcinoma in situ. And it's often referred to as DCIS or LCIS. And in situ really means encapsulated. So it's not yet become invasive and kind of grown legs like a spider. That would be a stage 1 breast cancer. Stage 2 breast cancer has become invasive, at least in the breast, possibly involving a couple of the lymph nodes. Stage 3 is more of a regional disease, and there's a lot more to this, so I'm really simplifying this. There's grade. I know you're very well educated, so there's a lot of different things that go into pathology. So stage 3, as I said, is regional. Stage 4, it's metastasized. And that's when it's gone to the vital organs, and it actually becomes fatal, because breast cancer in the breast is not fatal. It's when it travels to vital organs, such as, and it usually goes to the liver, the lung, the bone, or the brain. And that's, of course, when women are losing the battle, is when those organs shut down.
And, there's a lot of debate on this because I had triple-negative breast cancer, that tumor, but I also had a second tumor about an inch away that was one of these DCIS, a ductal carcinoma in situ. And my cancer surgeon said, if you hadn't gotten the triple-negative breast cancer, that DCIS might never have caused a problem. It was inside that duct. It might never have been an issue. But of course, once you're being treated, they treat both and they remove both. And there's mapping being done right now. I know Dr. Susan Love, cancer expert, Susan Love is mapping out being able to map the ducts of the breast so that they can better understand how these grow and how these then leave those areas and become more dangerous. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about areas of Connecticut, is it socioeconomic mainly that keeps women from getting mammograms and getting early mammograms if they're needed?
No, we found through a project we do every 4 years, and this is a project that all Susan G. Komen affiliates undertake every 4 years. And the reason we do it is we need to set the priorities for how we're going to invest the funds that we raise. And it's called the Community Profile of Breast Cancer. So we did one in 2011 in Connecticut. We're now in the process of doing the 2015. And we start by looking at quantitative data. And that comes directly from the tumor registry. So every breast cancer is registered with the Department of Public Health. That's required by the CDC. And we take that data and we map the 20 towns that have the highest incidence, late-stage diagnosis, and mortality. And we put that on a map. And you'd be very interested in that map for Connecticut and Massachusetts, because everyone thinks, and I thought the first time I did this, what do you think? It's going to be the urban areas, right? Cultural barriers, healthcare access barriers, socioeconomic. Greenwich had high incidence.
Greenwich, a high wealth area, I saw a big star on the map.
Yes. So after we do that quantitative research, we do some qualitative research. And we interview social workers at the different cancer centers. We do focus groups of women who have an initial diagnosis at stage 3 or 4. And we say, why did you wait? Something is obviously wrong. If you have a stage 4 cancer, it is showing visually on your breast.
And what do they say?
Well, in the low income and socioeconomic challenged areas, they say, well, we didn't know what a mammogram was. I hear that in Connecticut, Joan. There are women who don't know what mammography is, believe it or not. They didn't know they had to go get one. They didn't have health insurance. Okay? They didn't see a doctor unless they had an acute medical need. So you and I go every year and we probably get a physical and perhaps we go to an OBGYN, get a checkup. They don't go to a healthcare facility unless something is acutely wrong with either them or their children, right? They have the flu, their children break a bone, something happens, there's an occurrence of an acute medical need. And no one's ordering mammograms during those visits. So they never had them. So that's more about the low-income areas, right?
Right.
Now we move into Greenwich, or I live in West Hartford. High late-stage diagnosis. What's going on there? What do you think the women said was the number one reason?
Too busy taking care of everyone
There
else in
you
their
go.
life? Is that seriously?
You are
I mean, because I preach this all the time. Too busy taking care of everybody else in their life, and
Number
you just
one
keep getting bumped kind of down off your to-do list.
Yeah. They
Smart,
don't have time.
educated.
Smart, educated,
Educated.
insured, fully aware. They don't go and get their annual screening. Over 40. Or if they're under 40 and they have some abnormality, they've noticed some change in their breast, their normal is no longer normal, they're too busy. They cancel the appointment once or twice. You can't do this in the evening and on weekends. They're running their kids to soccer, they're running their kids to dance and religious education and all these other priorities that are taking precedent.
I've also heard from a lot of women on social media who say, I just want to lose that last 20 pounds. I don't want to go in and take my clothes off and have to get on the scale. And I mean, obviously we know where that story ends. They don't lose those pounds, so they never go on that appointment for a life-saving test.
And it is life-saving. You mentioned earlier DCIS. That is an encapsulated, easy surgery, usually done through a lumpectomy, and may or may not have a follow-up chemotherapy or radiation.